I emptied my fuel cards. So I did the maximum advance that was allowed, and I just pulled all the money off. This is when some of the money from August, some of the regular like net 30 revenue started flowing in. He cuts a check on the same day, so that's how I was able to get paid within the same month. Or just the owners of trucks have really gotten the short end of the stick the last 2 or 3 years. License and permits, regulatory. So that's my base plate plus maybe like the heavy vehicle use tax, a couple other things in there. So we just rolled over into 2026. I was getting ready for taxes and everything and just looking through my QuickBooks Online reports. It's pretty ugly. I want to go over my numbers. So this is my first year as a new authority. There's some caveats, but I mean, it was still bad, but I'll just start with a headline if we can. I'll pull up a report here. Let's see, last year. Okay. So if you just want to see the headline number, it's right here. I lost $9,534 for the year. But there's a lot of caveats with this one. So these are my monthly charts. If you use QuickBooks, you know what you're looking at here. It's just the teal blue at the bottom is your expenses, and the green up top is your revenue. So one caveat was it's my first year as I'm a new entrant with a new MC number and DOT number. So I had that initial 30-day period where I wasn't bringing in any revenue. So like this month in January, I'll be getting paid for the loads I did, throughout December, because a lot of them are like a net 30 top term on your pay turnaround. So there's that caveat. So my first month was, there was a 30-day delay, so I'm missing a month of the income, but I'm not missing any of the expenses, that's for sure. Another caveat is the authority went active August 1st, but my Texas IFTA, so I registered for IFTA the first day that it was available. Like as soon as I had a DOT number, I signed up for IFTA through Texas, and so I still had the 21-day waiting period. So I got through the 21-day waiting period. August 1st, my authority was active. But then it was another like 2 or 3 weeks after that before I got my IFTA stuff. And the first week, I was waiting because I was thinking it's about to come in the mail. And then after that, I just gave up on them. I ended up just getting a like Texas Intrastate. So I've got the Texas Intrastate Authority. I don't know if it's called an authority, but it's just like a registration to run within the state of Texas. Intrastate only. And it's cheap. It's real easy. So I did a couple loads just within the state of Texas. Another caveat is that I'd actually leased on with Landstar during this time period. So if we look back, January, I wasn't doing any trucking, so I have 0 in January, and that's one of the better months. February too, 0 in February. Then in March, so March was when I first thought I might get back on the truck. So I spent $155, and that was just, I went and bought a battery because the truck was parked and I was going and cranking it up like once a week, just to keep fluids moving around and everything. So March, I was thinking about it. I bought one battery because I was having to jump it every time. And so when I bought that battery, I didn't keep it hooked up, but instead of having to jump it, I would just go, or it would actually, I still had to jump it, but it would just take a lot less time. So I left the battery cables loose on one end, and I kept 2 of the batteries still hooked up. So I had that battery, and I would just go hook that battery up, and then I was able to jump the truck like instantly, where before, when I just had the 3 dead batteries in there and I was just trying to use my Tahoe, so I was using my Tahoe, plus I was using my portable jumper that I keep in the truck here. So with both of those hooked up, I was still having to spend 15 or 20 minutes just sitting there waiting. And so after I bought this new battery, I would just hook the new battery up, and then I'd hook my jumper box up to it, and it would just fire right up instantly. So then April, I bought 2 more batteries plus some other supplies. That's when I decided I was going to get back on the road. May, just more of the same. I went through the truck, and I think I had to do some airbag stuff, messed with leveling valves, just looked everything over, moved it around the yard, checked, so I spent more money just kind of getting things ready for the road. And then June, that's when I was in the process of leasing on with Landstar. So this expense here, I wouldn't have had this. So there's 6,000 of this 6,900 that I wouldn't have had, because I bought 2 new fuel tanks just to satisfy Landstar, because the reason I canceled my lease the year before was because I failed an inspection for a fuel leak that was pretty much non-existent. I mean, it was a pinhole leak in the top of my tank, but it would never leak unless fuel like sloshed up and hit this little spot, and then they couldn't even show me the leak on the failed inspection. So, but I knew Landstar was going to want to see an invoice, so I bought 2 fuel tanks, spent $6 grand on them, and some other, did some other stuff on the truck. Then this is the first month, so I leased on within July, and so I made $471 from Landstar. I hauled 2 loads for them, and then they told me, you're not supposed to be leased on with us. You drove on a failed inspection. After you canceled your lease, we decided you have to wait 3 years before you lease back on. So I don't know how I made it through their whole process of sending everything back and forth, and tons of paperwork, all the background checks, all the drug screen stuff, the equipment report. I mean, I did everything, and they leased me on. I went through orientation, booked a load out of orientation. The first I heard they were going to cancel my lease was whenever I was hauling my first load. I picked it up in Texas. I went to the orientation at the Fort Worth Center. So I was pulling a load from, I think it was Enos, and it was going up to Omaha. And then I pulled another load down I went down to Kansas City, grabbed a load going down to Baytown. But so my advisor had called me then. Well, long story short, once they called me and let me know they're thinking about canceling the lease, that $471, I emptied my fuel cards. So I did the maximum advance that was allowed, and I just pulled all the money off because I wasn't sure. Like, I just spent all this money, and then they're telling me, you're not gonna be able to run under our numbers. So I did that, and then they ended up, I didn't take any money from them. I have a 0 balance with Landstar right now. They ended up cutting me a check because I owed them. I was running under there with one of their base plates. It was an Indiana base plate, so I think those are $1,700 or $1,800. So I owed them that, and they told me the full, like, you can pay it out over time when you're leased on, but if you cancel your lease and there's still a balance, you owe the full balance immediately. So I owed that full balance, and I think the first load I did might have been $1,500. I think the second load was closer to $2,000. So I hadn't generated a whole lot of revenue to cover, plus their percentage they're taking out, and the insurance and everything that's coming out of your settlements. So I just barely had enough to cover that base plate. They ended up selling the base plate. It took them a couple months, so I ended up paying the first month and maybe two additional months on the base plate, but eventually they sold the base plate to someone else. So that was good. If they hadn't sold the base plate, I would have owed them money, but they ended up cutting me a check for, I think it was $11 or $14. So I'm in good standing with them. I have a zero balance, but I can't lease on. And I've talked to several of their agents since then, just on for loads, because within the last couple years, if you were a Landstar BCO and you had your own authority, they would waive their requirement for the authority age. So I talked to them and just said, "Hey, I want to get signed up as a carrier. I'm a former BCO, and I just, I had to wait until the base plate and everything settled and all that stuff went through." Well, come to find out, after all that was said and done, they've got new rules now. They don't let anybody lease on. So, or they don't let former BCOs avoid that. They don't let former BCOs avoid the 1 year mark. And I've talked to multiple agents. So there could be a loophole somewhere I don't know about, but I've talked to several agents, just to try to cut out corporate Landstar and just get actual information from their agencies and stuff that and they're all telling me the same exact thing. No, it's 12 months. There's no, they're not waiving anything now. So anyways, back to this. So that was what that 6,000 came from. And then, so August, this is when I started running. And there wouldn't be any income in August. This $859, that wouldn't be there, except one of the interstate loads I hauled was for just a small brokerage, and he pays in 1 day. So he cut me a check, and I've hauled loads for him since then. So this guy lives probably 2 hours away from where I live, and so just a small single. I think he's the only person at that brokerage, but he cuts a check on the same day. So that's how I was able to get paid within the same month on those August numbers. Yeah. So then we come into September. This is when some of the money from August, some of the regular like net 30 revenue started flowing in. And then October, I didn't really make that much, and like this would normally be September numbers you're looking at here, but this was some like late pays that were coming in, and it was some people paying early in October. So that's a little more. I didn't actually make $9,600 in that month. That was just like a combination of good things happening from prior and good things happening from the future. So that kind of pulled from September, and it pulled from November's numbers. So then November, we were profitable. So I guess, let's see. So October was the first profitable month. November, we turned a profit. December, we barely squeaked out a profit. So that's what we did. If I look at, so the total revenue, the settlement item here, that's Landstar. Then the trucking business income is just from brokers that I've worked with the authority. Let's see. So insurance, that was my insurance cost for the year. And so insurance wasn't August through the end. And this is another caveat that made it worse, is I started my insurance early. I started my insurance in July because I thought that would be one of the things that would hold up me going through the rest of the Texas IFTA stuff. You need the insurance to do stuff. So I went ahead and got that as soon as I registered for my DOT number while I was in the 21-day waiting period. License and permits, regulatory. So that's my base plate plus maybe like the heavy vehicle use tax, a couple other things in there. Memberships and subscriptions. That should be higher. That should be, because that's got my truckstop.com load board. Or no, you know what? I switch. So software and technology. Yeah, this is too I need to simplify this. I got too many different line items on here. But office in general, that's like QuickBooks Online, PPE. That's pretty easy to figure out. So see, I've got preventative maintenance, repairs and maintenance. That should all be combined. Scales, tolls, and parking. Software and technology. So that's the truck stop load board. There might be something else in there, but not anything. That's the main one, is the truck stop load board. IFTA, payments, weight distance tax, tools. See, I don't even need tools. I can just classify all that stuff as truck supplies and materials. That would be fine. Wireless and cellular. And that's my diesel. It's labeled diesel, def, and fuel card EFS charges, but that's mostly just diesel. I don't even know why I have def on there. I haven't bought def since, I don't know, 2018. And there's my net at the bottom. So yeah, if you're a company driver and you're thinking about becoming an owner operator, I'd say for the past 3 years you've been in a pretty good situation just being a W-2. Like 1099s have really or just the owners of trucks have really gotten the short end of the stick the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, and I'm not saying people are losing money like this. I mean, this is obviously, I worked less than half a year, and I had all that stuff with Landstar, and I had the 30-day delay. So it's like a perfect storm of everything going wrong. So in that 30-day delay, like once you quit, you'll have income for 30 additional days. So you catch up on the back end kind of thing. Or if you just take time off, then you kind of got to start that whole cycle over again. But that's my numbers for 2025. If they look like that in 2026, I probably won't be doing this anymore. I need them to be a lot different. So, and let me just see, so far, like I'm already, this year, where are we at? So this year already looks a lot better. There's my January numbers so far, and we're not even halfway through January. So that's just one load I got paid for. So, all right. Well, if you like owner-operator stuff, if you're interested in authority or leasing on, like, comment, subscribe. If you've already got your authority and you look through those numbers on there, let me know. Let me know how your numbers compare. And if you see some big red flag in my books, let me know about that too. I try to keep things as simple as possible, although obviously on my accounting stuff I need to simplify that to fewer line items, but it totals it all up, so it's really not that big of a deal. Yep, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.